Good afternoon, everybody, or whatever time you're watching. This is something that I'm never quite. I started when I first started interviewing people. I didn't know what to say, so I'd say good morning, good evening, whatever time you're listening, and that was always a bit silly to me. But I couldn't think of anything else because I'm like, when are people watching? But this is live, and I am just going to start sketching. And I thought I would I don't know. I take a lot of notes about what I'm going to do with my next projects. And I spent the afternoon kind of writing down a bunch of stuff in terms of what happens if Escape from Planet Omega 12 doesn't work out. And when I say don't work out, I mean the crowdfunder. I don't mean I'm not going to do it. So anyway, I just thought, the YouTube algorithm and all that stuff happens to favor people who stream more often. So I think I'll just try drawing, and I'm very rusty with my drawing. I'm not even quite sure what this is going to be yet. Just thought I'd kind of start doing some figure stuff. I don't even know if it's going to be a male figure or a female figure. Let's try a male figure for a change. I'm always drawing women. And I've been thinking about different projects I've done in the past. Maybe this will be Wendell. Wendell's a character of mine that I used to do an underground comic of, and I was just talking to Clint Carney about Clint. If you don't know, and if you're not familiar with the show, is a director, and he and I both kind of came out of the LA goth scene. We're at the same age. He did a movie called Dry Blood, and of course, I did The Quantum Terror. As you can tell, I'm a bit seasonal allergy today. I'm very stuffy. I've been trying to avoid taking too much medicine. I'm trying to, just drink lots of water, that sort of thing. Anyway, I was talking about how I used to do a comic, an underground comic called The Black Lipstick Curse. And I mean underground, I mean I would literally have copies of it that I would Xerox off in zines and stuff. And it was about these characters who were goth kids. Boy, look, I'm not even doing very well with it already. Let's give him a bit of a face. It was kind of cartoony. And sometimes it got more serious. But Wendell was the main character. And he was kind of like me. But I didn't want to make him me because I had this kind of thing going where I had experiences I wanted to talk about. Some of them are silly. Some of them were kind of ridiculous. But I always wanted the leeway to shape them into fictional stories where what actually I didn't have to kind of like out people the things that had happened. Or at the same time, it's like things would happen to one person, things would happen to another person. And I'd want to tell this story in kind of like a congealed way. Congealed, I don't know. Boy, I'm really rusty at drawing, and I've never really considered myself a great artist, by the way. I usually just do storyboards, and so the drawings are really rough. It's funny when I try and do better drawings, they lose some of the fluidity of that's not what a hairline looks like. Come on. They lose some of the fluidity of my rougher sketches. But Wendell, like I said, and all the other characters, I just wanted to create characters that could kind of do fictionalized versions of the things that I would experience in clubs. And if I wanted to make stuff up, I was free to do so. It wasn't like I was beholden to reality, and I wasn't actually doing real characters, where the people who they were based on would go, "Hey, that I never said that, or I would never do that. Why are you making me look stupid?" So I just kind of created characters that I could kind of borrow from the experiences. Or if I had an idea that was completely fictional, I was free to do that. So, yeah, this is Wendell. It's starting to look like Wendell anyway. And Wendell would wear kind of like a suit jacket. But because he was broke and he would get hand-me-down stuff or find things in thrift stores, they wouldn't fit quite right. And I would always draw kind of impressions of stuff. Like I never sat and went like, well, how do I make this look like a proper suit jacket? You can wear a loose shirt. Kind of a different kind of goth. Very skinny like I was when I was younger. Still fairly skinny, but yeah, and then going into my storyboard thing. I should take the time to... I'm very rusty at drawing. Wendell would... go through the clubs and meet different people and make different friends, have different girlfriends. Some of them were just friends. Some of them were girlfriends. He was kind of like Archie. He was always like trying to find love, not just go around and like, pick up girls, but actually find like a meaningful relationship. But when you're young, you're chasing after different things all the time. So anyway, yeah, what are you, Wendell? Where if I ever revisited this story and did new comics, because it was a comic book, I briefly considered what would it be like if I did it as a series, and the answer is, it would quickly lose what it is as a comic. At least I think. I toyed with the idea. Wouldn't it be fun to bring in the music of that time, both the popular music and like the local bands of that scene in Hollywood? Who are those local bands? They're 45 Grave, but was Penis Flytrap at the time. Collide. What are some others? It was an interesting time because it was different in terms of there was the kind of old guard goths. I refuse to use the term elder goth. I think it's a stupid term. Sorry, it is. It's a stupid term. It sounds like some Dungeons and Dragons thing. Baby bats, all that stupid stuff. The old guard, the death rockers. They would, a lot of them would still kind of have their standing in the clubs, and they would DJ or they would have their bands, and they were still very cool. They were still very much masters of the realm, so to speak, in terms of they were the ones that established it, and a lot of them were very good friends. And then there were the newer ones, and it was kind of, it broke off into factions. Like I said, those older goths and or death rockers, and then there was the what would you call it? Like the industrials, the Marilyn Manson types. I was very much and still am into bands like The Cure and The Damned and The Cramps, Bauhaus. Funnily enough, I never actually owned a Bauhaus album. You'd hear them enough in the clubs. and I went to the clubs a lot. Black spiky hair. I did very much have hair like this a lot. Although I had it in such a way that I could go to work. I used to work retail. The interesting thing about the comics, and this is something that I've kind of never talked about before, and I'm not going to name any names, but, you know, I had very much had my idea of what I wanted the comic to be. And I had a friend that was a writer, and he very much kind of discouraged me from writing. He said, leave the writing to me, you be the artist, but I would still create my stories. And then he would start telling me ways that they could be better, and me thinking that he knew better, I would listen to him. And then he took the stories in a very different direction. And I was never happy with it, even though I would never tell him I wasn't happy with it. And so I would just let him, you know, have his way with the stories. And now I look back on them and they were very much his stories, and they weren't what I wanted them to be. Like, they started as what I wanted them to be. This is kind of a horrible drawing, but interesting. Maybe I'll just delete this first live stream and try again another time. But, you know, he did all these weird things. Like, you know, I do a story about, you know, how crazy and weird people would behave out of just, you know, trying to, you know, be strange. And I think I put that packet on the wrong side, didn't I? It's funny, you draw, let's see. No, it's on the wrong side. Anyway, you know, it's like I draw a story about someone doing something weird and crazy because goth people behaved weird and crazy, because a lot of them are still, you know, adolescent or coming out of adolescence. And, you know, he'd be like, oh, let's rewrite the story. So the reason they're acting weird and crazy is because they're dying of cancer. Okay. But this is an ongoing character. Well, now they have cancer. Okay. Or, you know, he would make the characters grow up and get married, and suddenly it's like a story. He wanted to tell a story about you know, one of them finding out that they're pregnant. I'm like, okay, but the whole idea is that this, you know, this character is going to clubs, and like I said, it's kind of like Archie. He's different girls. No, he gets married and she's pregnant. She doesn't know how to tell him, and that's the story. I'm like, blah. Okay. And so I would lose my enthusiasm for these stories midway through drawing them. And, you know, because I was telling myself these stories are better than what I would come up with, I didn't know why I was losing my enthusiasm for them. And, you know, they would go unfinished, and he would get mad at me. And, you know, but there was kind of the opposite as well, where it was like, take him forever to finish a story. And, you know, maybe that was part of it too. Always very critical of the art as well. You know, no, draw it how you want to draw it. Okay, this is how I'm drawing it. You can draw it better than that. Okay, well, that's how I wanted to draw it. So it wasn't a very good relationship that way artistically. It kind of became toxic, where I was expected to always deliver a certain thing, even though I was never told what that thing is. I think that was deliberate too, you know, so I could be the scapegoat for why this, you know, the story didn't work out or whatever. I don't know. It's something I'm still working out after all this time in my head. He's becoming a little over sketched, and do this resolution thing. Why am I always in? I always forget. I'm always in CMYK. Let's see, image mode, RGB. There we go. Don't flatten. There we go. Like I said, I'm doing this a bit low resolution. So Wendell, anyway, like I said, he started out as a self-insert character, but I didn't want him to be a self-insert character. I wanted him to be his own character. I wanted him to learn things and do fun stuff. And again, the influence of the other writer, made it so I never really got to realize this character the way that I wanted or discover this character. And this is the thing, when you have somebody in your space, in your creative space, telling you that your ideas are not as good as his ideas, then and that person seems to know better, and you listen. Well, maybe they are a better writer. Maybe they are, have better ideas. But what they don't have is they don't have your perspective. Essentially, what was going on was a hijacking of my ideas to then accommodate the kind of stories that they wanted to tell. And their ideas were always like something out of the newspaper. I read this thing about this person whose cat died, or I read this thing about this person that got cancer or Alzheimer's, or and they would mess with people in real life too. Like, oh, I'm messing with, they wouldn't say, I'm paraphrasing, but they would say like, oh, I did this to this person to see how they would react. So, I could then write it down for my story, and it's more real that way. It's like, well, it's not more real that way because you're messing with that person. And you're interfering with their life, with their development. And that's not cool. It's kind of sociopathic in a way. So it's Wendell. Just kind of gothed out, ready to go to the club. Oops. I don't know. Very sketchy. Maybe I should just stick to storyboards. Or maybe I should find a better artist and write these stories. I did think it would be fun to consult with all my friends from the scene and kind of like dig for old memories. Not really, like I said, to turn them into stories, but just to remember the context of the time. I don't really remember a lot, chronologically. I remember bits and pieces. I have a very poor memory of the past. My past to me feels like dreams. Hey, Martin, how's it going? Don't know how long you've been listening, but anyone who is here, it's not telling me anyone's here. It says 0, but who knows? But Martin is a big part of Pop Culture Minefield, which I'm on from time to time. About 2 minutes. And a very good guy. And I like him a lot. So thanks for joining me, Martin. I should invite other people in while I sketch. Maybe I should take orders of what I sketch. This guy is like not worth keeping here. Or maybe I should. Maybe I should just like post this. I should just write Wendell. I called him Wendell Forlack, which was Karloff backwards. Wendell from the Black Lipstick Curse. So the Black Lipstick Curse, by the way, is a name. Scribe. I didn't actually think anyone would tune in at this time. So the Black Lipstick Curse is a name I came up with. Was The Cure was making a joke that they weren't called The Cure, they were called The Curse, but I thought that was interesting. But to me, it kind of became this thing where it was like, people who are in the goth scene, their lives kind of became enshrouded by just everything being gothy in one form or another. It kind of becomes this thing where you it infects everything you do, and not just in terms of like making stuff into, like if you've got a Barbie doll, turning it into a goth Barbie doll or something like that. But, you know, like just informing your worldview and your decisions. And it's, you know, it's something that I think you have to grow out of. I see some people kind of get stuck in it. It's one of two things. They either make it part of their career, you know, they're in the music industry or something like that. So they're in it for life because it becomes, you know, they're entertainers. But there are some people that just kind of like get stuck in the lifestyle endlessly. And, you know, I still generally wear all black and wear my Cure shirts and listen to the music and that sort of thing. But, you know, I'm not looking to wear, crazy clothes or black lipstick now or get attention. At my age, I'd look very ridiculous. I think I looked a little ridiculous back then. But you know, yeah, it's this weird thing. So I had this idea that maybe this character would wake up one day, you know, like he would go to sleep after being in a goth club, and then he'd wake up 20 years later and find that he's older and it had some sort of head injury, and he can't remember what happened between then. So the last thing he remembers is being at the goth club, and then he has to kind of backtrack and revisit all that time in his life to kind of rebuild his memories of marrying his wife and having kids and that sort of thing. So, and it would be a way to kind of, for me to kind of rediscover all of that. So, I don't know, but you know, Winston, shut up. You can hear my dog barking. I did a live stream with Peter Samedi and Scribe Light, and Scribe is going to be joining me for part 2 of that on Friday at noon Central. And it just kind of, talking to Peter kind of reawakened my my memory of how much I love comics. So I just started thinking about, you know, what am I going to do here? And I also started thinking in terms of sci-exploitation. You know, I want to do movies and animation and TV with that. But I was also saying to Peter and Scribe that I used to be absolutely in love with the Aliens comic books that was it Dark Horse used to do. And let's see if I remember how to draw an alien really quick. It's going to look all doofy and bucktooth. Yeah, this is a very cartoony version of it. I usually start sketching very cartoony and kind of rein it in, so don't expect any masterpieces. But, you know, I always thought it'd be cool to be a filmmaker that had, you know, comics made of his film, like James Cameron had comics made of Terminator and Aliens. I should look up, this is something funny. That same individual who was a large part of my life for a very long time. Let's see if I can find it while I'm working on it. We used to know some people from Bongo Comics. And if you remember Bongo Comics, they did the Simpsons comic books. And, you know, the Simpsons and Aliens was owned by Fox. So he had this idea, and I hope to God I can find it. Hold on a second. For Aliens versus the Simpsons, which I loved the idea. I thought that's something fun to do. So we pitched it. And they weren't keen on it, but I really liked the idea. So I wanted to, I'm not sketching because I'm looking for the file here. So, anyway, you know, I really wanted to try and, I wouldn't say force the issue, but, ooh, did I find it? Let's see. I did find it. Here it is. So, like I said, I didn't want to, I kind of wanted to force the issue of Aliens versus the Simpsons. And so I did these paintings, and it's the Kang jockey, which I thought was very clever. And I did this concept art and I thought, cool, aliens versus Simpsons. And he started getting mad at me, you know. Again, he didn't want to do like the fun stuff. Like he'd have fun ideas and then he kind of, oh, I don't want to hang out with those guys. I want to, you know, but look at I particularly like this one of the. I thought I got the chest burster pretty good. The idea that Smithers would be the android, and it was his idea that Lisa would rescue Maggie. I also thought this was clever here. The why you little thing incorporated into the face hugger going for Bart. So we had this idea of killing the Simpsons. And they were going to invade Springfield and kill everybody. And, we'd have a lot of fun with it. But again, like I started pushing it and he started getting mad that I, had actually liked one of his ideas, but because it wasn't one of his like slice of life things. Again, like, if he wanted to do a superhero, it was like, let's give Catwoman Alzheimer's. Like, God, so depressing. He actually wrote that script and he wrote it in the form of a poem and he gave it to me and he's like, you'll know how to draw this. I'm like, what? Like, how am I supposed to figure out how to take this long form poem about Batman taking care of Catwoman because she has Alzheimer's and turn it into a comic book story? It's a really unfair thing to do for an artist, and again, especially a young artist who hasn't had the experience yet to do that. Let's see. I think I've got, close-ups of this. And then get irritated with him when he's not delivering on it. I think personally that it was a way of him making me a scapegoat for the reason that, his stories never got out there. I think deep down he knew that, if you were to show somebody a story about, and you know what? I did take, this is a funny story. Yvonne Craig, who played Batgirl, and Julie Newmar, who played Catwoman, were at Comic-Con. And I couldn't get Julie Newmar's attention, but I got it. Yvonne, is it Yvonne or Yvonne? I think it might have been Yvonne. Anyway, I got her attention. And let's get rid of this. This is stupid. Oops, I accidentally duplicated it. And I got her to read it and she just looked, she's like, this is awfully sad. And this is like 1960s camp. And again, I was very impressed by this person at the time, thinking that they were mentoring me and they were smarter. But I just became a scapegoat for their own inability to complete anything. I have several of Dark Horse Alien series, Rogue, Music of the Spheres, others, also the AVPC, Deadliest of the Species. Which one was the Deadliest of the Species? I had the original ones. They first started doing Dark Horse Presents Aliens. Oops, I'm on a hidden layer. You can hear from my voice that I'm sick. I was so excited. It was about a Weyland-Yutani colony that was breeding these weird rhino things for livestock. Was that Deadliest of the Species? I thought it was great at the time. And then the original Aliens comics, the first few series, the first one, it was someone Nelson that illustrated it, and then there was an airbrush artist that did a fully airbrushed series, and then after that it was what was it, Sam Keith, and I think that was Earth Wars. And that one, I was kind of like, this art is really bizarre. But then I kind of started to like it for its weird qualities. And then I guess Sigourney Weaver had seen it and was not overly impressed with how they drew her. But I don't think she understood comic books in terms of, the stylization of it. But by then, that's what I think we talked about this with Peter Simeti. That kind of got me introduced to Marvel Comics Presents, where Sam Keith was doing a backup story. It was Barry Windsor Smith was doing the Weapon X, and Sam Keith was doing the other thing. My dog keeps scratching at the front door and is making me insane. Yeah, I'm just doodling at the moment. I'm trying to, here's something. Aliens and Aliens versus Predator is a big part of my life growing up. And I even had a dream that about the Pred Alien before that was ever a thing. And I did drawings of it. My art was even worse than it was now. And I sent them into Dark Horse Comics and I said, hey, do this, do the Pred Alien. I didn't call it Pred Alien, but this would be cool if an alien that came out of a predator had the mandibles. And they actually did it. So I actually invented the Pred Alien, and no one's ever going to know. But that was me. That was totally me. You can thank for the Pred Alien that everyone loves so much in Alien versus Predator Requiem. And I told Alec Gillis that. And he said, there's a guy on Hollywood Boulevard that claims he's the real inventor of Star Wars. And he actually has a plaque that he holds up, and he calls himself the real inventor of Star Wars. And he takes pictures with people on Hollywood Boulevard. So I need a plaque that says I created the Pred Alien. But yeah, what I'm doing at the moment is as foolhardy as it sounds, but since Escape from Planet Omega 12, which is doing, not very well in the crowdfunding sphere, and thank God for my patrons, I am starting to consider, like, what other, I'm calling this the sci-exploitation anthology, so what other stories do I want to tell in the sci-exploitation anthology? Because Escape from Planet Omega 12 is specifically produced with my partner Doug Mayfield, but I want to do other stories as well, and not now, but down the road. And so I'm thinking of different characters, and I'm thinking that maybe there's a character with wavier hair who is she wakes up someplace unknowing where she is, which doesn't sound terribly original until I don't want to give away yet where she is, but you find out where she is very interesting. She's traveling through space, but in a way that I've never seen in science fiction. So, yeah, I know I give my character scrawnier necks. Let's thicken up her neck just a little bit. But she wakes up to people who are waiting for her. But she doesn't know who they are, but they know who she is. And she's the key to everything. Just kidding. Just kidding. I got to figure out more about that story, but it's more of a concept at the moment. Again, I don't want to mention where she wakes up, what kind of device she finds herself in, so to speak. But it's a way of traveling through space that isn't a spaceship. And again, I've never seen it before. I've never heard anybody come up with this idea, and I'm not going to say it. But one of her companions that she meets is a genetically engineered mermaid. Right, that's all the stuff I like. There's robots, there's strange beings, but I am reminded of how rusty I am and my tendency to ramble. But I just wanted to experiment with doing a draw stream. And I don't know if anybody's still watching, but I think I will log off. But if you have listened to this and you're still listening to this, check out my campaign right now for Escape from Planet Omega 12. I still believe that it could do something. There's 15 days left, I believe, maybe 16, but the day is almost over. Martin's looking to steal my ideas. Martin, are you an artist? Are you a writer? Um, I feel like I'm surrounded by all these talented people who never say anything. I'm only marginally talented in my art skills. I think I'm a pretty serviceable screenplay writer, and I can write comic books. I think my writing and my ideas are pretty unique, and that I can do something interesting with that. Um, but Anyway, yeah. So Escape from Planet Omega 12. I think that the campaign still could have legs. It's kind of asking for a small miracle at the moment to consider that we're only at $300. Well, let's see. Let's see where the campaign's at the moment. Let's see. Yeah, $300. I've gotten a lot of encouragement from people, but unfortunately, a lot of my friends are broke. So they can't afford to oops, I'm just doing the wrong thing here. They can't afford to pitch in, but they do share, and I really appreciate that. But yeah, this is the campaign. Yeah, 16 days left, 12 backers. So it's going to take a miracle in the last 15 days to suddenly get a bunch of attention that would cause people to chip in, but more people are asking about it. So I'm not giving up on it yet. If it gets to the final few days, and stories are my passion. I always wanted to write. Yeah, let's talk about that, Martin, sometime. You know, you can learn to write. Writing is a, if it, I mean, maybe you have learned some stuff about writing, but it's not something that's like impossible to learn. So, whatever people may tell you, it's not impossible to get to formulate ideas. But I should talk about writing more on my channel, and I think I do. But I definitely want to answer questions and that sort of thing, and encourage people like you to write and dogs to shut up. Winston, quiet, stupid dog. Dachshunds, man. But anyway, if it gets to the final few days of this campaign and it's still at like 300 or something like that, I'm just going to refund everybody and go back to the drawing board. But it doesn't mean I'm going to give up on this project or any other aspect of sci exploitation. I think it could be really good. And, my first movie, The Quantum Terror, is doing actually really well. It's getting great responses. I wish more people would leave user reviews. But it's doing really well, and I think my other stories could do really well too. And that, oh my god, I hate dogs. Winston, how dare people walk past my house? According to my dog. So yeah, if I get this movie made and I get it on video on demand, I think it's going to do well as well. We got really, we're combining practical effects miniatures with traditional animation and puppets. It's going to be a really unique look. I think it's going to be great. But definitely getting that funding would make a big difference in doing it right. But I'm gonna keep working on these other stories, man. I'm gonna, genetically engineered mermaids and alien beings and robots and making it like crazy. I'm all about it. I love monsters. I love creatures. I love aliens, and I want to do that. So. And what I was going to say, oh yeah, Peter Samedi. Okay, you guys are listening to me ramble way too long. Peter Samedi Part 2, Alterna Comics, and we're going to be talking about that. So Omega 12 is awesome. I think the real issue is that the campaign is not enough visibility. Yes, you're absolutely right, Martin. And then a lot of that's on me. I think, yeah. I won't say that I'm like, I don't want to make it sound like I'm a destitute, starving artist. I am, providing for my family. My wife and I together are providing for our family, and but all our money goes to that, and there really isn't anything left over at the end. When there is leftover money, it goes into my projects. Um, but yeah, especially in this economy, I was doing a lot better last year, believe me, and I'm sure that's the story for everybody. So but I appreciate the word of mouth and the attention, um and doing live streams. I mean, this is just a rambling kind of live stream drawing thing going on, and not a very good one. And I promise to get better at these. I am being attacked by a cat. Are you crazy? He's climbing on my back and clawing me. So but yeah, tune in for Peter Samedi part 2, because we're going to be talking about the business of of publishing comic books, in addition to more about why we love comic books. And that's really what we just got to keep doing, is we got to keep talking about why we love this art form, whether it be comics or animation or filmmaking. On Pop Culture Minefield and a lot of the other stuff. And if you're listening to this and you don't know what Pop Culture Minefield is, please look that up on YouTube so you can tune in with Gary and Keith and Martin and Das Wolfen and myself from time to time, and a bunch of other great panelists. And they have guests and they talk about UFOs and pop culture and all that sort of thing, critiques, shows, news, all that sort of thing. But I'm covering this is my contribution, is to start creating, and I hope I create something that excites people enough that they kind of see it as something new. Hey, it's Das Wolfen. I was just talking about you, man. I'm about to log off soon. And Das Wolfen, who I am subscribed to and has also started his live stream. I will ask this really quick. I haven't had a chance to tune in because when you live stream, I'm picking up my kids from school and they have a firewall to block your cell phone from getting YouTube when you're waiting online. So you're extra bored. But I hope your live stream went well, and that you got people in. That is right. What is up with that? But yeah, so I think I've rambled enough, though. But thanks for stopping in, guys. I really appreciate it. And I'm gonna try and do the thing that you're doing, Das Wolfen, and try and schedule these regularly or semi-regularly. But sometimes I'm just gonna hop in and I'm gonna sketch and I'm gonna ramble, and hopefully I don't embarrass myself with my sketches like I did this time. Maybe I'll do more storyboard stuff, keep it rough and loose. But again, thanks for dropping in, guys. And Indiegogo for Escape from Planet Omega 12. Peter Samedi on Friday. What will that be? That will be October 7th at noon Central Time. We're talking the publishing comics. And then I'm also planning on having in at some point Sean Malone, formerly Fee.org. We're going to be talking about why it's not surprising that the writing in Hollywood is so bad now. He had some comments on that, and I want to have him on. And also Alec Gillis, formerly of Studio 80i, which is now Studio Gillis, but his work includes the Aliens franchise, Aliens versus Predator franchise, Tremors, Starship Troopers, Death Becomes Her, the Santa Claus, Spider-Man, the original Sam Raimi Spider-Man. Yes, he's responsible for that awesome Green Goblin makeup that didn't make it into the film. And yes, he's also responsible for the horrible mask that Willem Dafoe wears in the film. But he got his start at Roger Corman's New World Pictures, making spaceships with his buddy James Cameron on Battle Beyond the Stars and Galaxy of Terror, which both Das Wolfen and I are big fans of. So I'm hoping to have Das Wolfen and, of course, anyone else, Martin or Scribe Light, who wants to contribute. But I'd love to do a live stream with Alec Gillis. He's been on my channel a couple of times. I've interviewed him before, talking about his time doing that. I kind of hoped I would be able to tie it in with the campaign from Escape from Planet Omega 12, but I don't know, because he's starting his new studio. Anyway, these live streams, you don't get to edit them, and I've rambled so much. So I'm going to wrap it up. Thanks for everybody who came in live, who is, listening and, after the fact. And I'll be back. I'll get more organized with these. So thanks a lot, guys. And if I don't know if I'll be in for Pop Culture Minefield tomorrow. I think Gary's doing it Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays now, but maybe I'll pop in with Friday before I do the Peter Cimetti thing. But I'm always jumping in and out to, lift weights for the girlies and give Gary a hard time. All right. Out, everybody. Have a good night.